Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting discussion topic to share with you guys. Honestly, this is going to be more of a ramble. If you're not familiar with my channel, a lot of the content that I upload, I like to just lay out knives and talk about certain things. There's not really any structure. It's just essentially my thoughts in the moment, based on something that's been kind of sitting in the back of my mind for a while. And today I want to talk about the itch that we all experience. If you're new to the knife world, maybe you haven't experienced this in its most powerful form yet. But if you keep digging, you're definitely going to get there. And a lot of you already know exactly what it is that I'm referring to: the itch for a new knife and climbing the ladder, reaching new tiers, the effect that it has on you, pros and cons, right? That's what we're going to discuss today. Before we get into it, thanks to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. If you'd like to check out my Patreon, there is of course a link right down in the description. Your support would mean the world to me. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Some of the knives laid out are currently available, so I will link those down there as well if you're interested in them. Believe me, we will talk about all of them. So the knives laid out here are all mine except for one. This is the Strider 3/4 AR, which is currently available. You can check that one out down in the description. This is a Hinder XM18 3.5-inch Gen 6 Spanto and S45 VN. There are definitely XM18s available right now. You can check those out down there. This is the Demco 8020, the MG 8020 with the Shark Lock. This is in full titanium. This is unfortunately not currently available, but hopefully soon. And this is my Microtech Combat Troodon Hellhound, which is a signature series blade, meaning hand ground blade. That's an automatic or OTF knife. The one here in the middle, these four are mine. The one here in the middle is not mine. This is far and away the most expensive knife on the table. We're looking at $600 after the tie scale, $625. This guy about $625. This guy about $600, right? This is about my comfort zone. After collecting, buying, selling, I'm an enthusiast, right? So I know there's going to be, general users. Maybe you just own a couple of Kershaws. Are going to go, what the heck? What? Why? Right? I'm an enthusiast. I do have knives that I use. I have knives that are just here, as part of my collection. Knives that I admire, for the just the manufacturing elements or the handmade elements, right? There's a lot of different reasons that I enjoy knives. I found my comfort zone in terms of the joy that I get out of my knives when I pay for them, right? I don't get the same level of enjoyment out of a, $40, $50 knife as I used to, right? But I've also spent substantially more money on knives than the ones out here, and this is by no means my whole collection. That sounds like I'm not trying to flex. It's just running a YouTube channel that is, all about knives. It's just that sometimes it makes acquiring things a little bit easier and much more consistent. So this is where we are now. Anyways, I've spent more money than this on knives, and I've found that, I've mentioned this before, I've found that for the most part, I've got the same amount of enjoyment out of $800, $900, $1,000 knives, at least the ones that I've checked out, the same amount of enjoyment that I got from these guys. And so I thought, do I need to be spending that much more money, because I just really appreciate these. And so I found this comfort zone in this area, and that's kind of where I've been at. And as I've experienced more and more and more, knives coming into the channel for review sent by viewers they're just loaner knives and they get sent back, or sometimes retailers or manufacturers will send me things and I look at them. They're more or less expensive, right? I have so much that I handle. The amount of time that passes between, each itch is growing and growing and growing. So it takes more and more and more for me to get so interested that I'm like, I have to have that. I gotta have it now. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna sell what I gotta sell, right? Because I can't afford to just take the money out of my pocket and buy it. I'm gonna sell what I gotta sell, get my hands on this stuff so I can just enjoy it. For what? Flipping it out and just sitting there and looking at it, for using it, whatever I want to do with it, because it's, it's my money. I'm going to buy what I want to and enjoy it for the reasons that I want to, as should you, right? There's no law that says if you're going to buy a knife, you have to do certain things with it. You have to use it for certain things, that you can't, do this or that. It's whatever. Anyways, that's besides the point. I haven't experienced an itch for a while that's quite so powerful. We're getting to this. I know you're like, open it! All right, we'll go ahead and open it. This is a Brian Nadeau full custom arch nemesis. This is lent to me by Alex's Knife Box. Please check him out on Instagram. This is a very beautiful and extremely unavailable full custom knife. This one runs about $1,800, substantially more expensive than these other knives that are out here on the table right now. Can we turn these a little bit sideways so we can get them all fitted in here? Because this is a big boy. Yeah, and the first time that I flipped that, I thought, oh, holy crap. Oh no, here we go. Oh, it's setting in, and the feeling washes over you, and then the need, right? The need, the want, it all comes together. Each one of these knives that's mine, they've been in my collection for a little bit now. XM18s, honestly, they come and go. It's just the XM18 model in general. I currently own two XM18s and an XM24, and the XM18s, I sell them and get another one, right? So this is representative of the entire line of XM18 3.5-inch models. But each one of these, first time I experienced it or saw it, I had an extreme urge to own it. The XM18 10 years ago, however long it was that I saw one for the first time, or I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah, unfortunately that led to the purchase of over 30 Hinders over time. Many of them sold, and then the money used to buy new ones. The Combat Troodon, right? That was in my head for the longest time. It was the ultimate, like, heavy-duty mega OTF, and then I saw the Hellhound blade. My wife took notice of that, picked that up for me as a gift for Christmas. The 8020, after Nick Shabazz sent me his the blue one, I was like, I have to, and I saw his full titanium one. I was like, I got to do whatever I got to do to get that. And then for whatever reason, the AR, the 3/4 AR, which is still bizarre to me, but everything about this aesthetically is just something, I just love it. I like the big tanky knives, and it's got its own quirks. You know, we've talked about that before, but I love it. Each one of these represents a different itch, right? But they're all in the same price range. It's all in my comfort zone where I kind of know what to expect. That got shattered here recently, and I talked about this on a Knife Guy episode. I've never actually wanted to spend, up until this point, the most I've ever spent on a knife was $1,300, and I bought the Medford Praetorian tie, which has always been in my mind. I did a video on that knife so long ago, but that knife had always been, like, in my head. I was like, that has to be the pinnacle of what it is that I'm after, right? I want the American there's a consistency here. All of these knives are made in the United States, including this custom guy. I thought, you know, that it's overbuilt, like, to the point where it's totally unnecessary, right? And I know people want to tell me, like, don't you know that the excess thickness in titanium and blade stock actually, you know, hinders it in terms of performance, and you're not actually getting it? Yeah, I know that. I enjoy the overbuilt stuff honestly for more novelty reasons than anything else. I enjoy the fact that it's so massively overbuilt and ridiculous that it just has this interesting draw. A lot of these knives have some of those same elements there, mixed with more functional elements. But anyways, my purchase of the Praetorian tie was meant to sort of crown my collection. It was meant to be a culmination of everything that I was looking for, and just something that I enjoyed and didn't necessarily use, right? Again, I know that sounds insane to some people. I've been doing things this way for about 10 years. I'm probably not going to stop anytime soon. I got users, and I got knives that I don't use. That's just the way that it is, right? But anyways, that $1,300 purchase, right? And I got it, and I opened it up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so, you know, amazing. It's mega thick, and it has the, you know, the Medfordy tanky feel. Mine was S35VN with a satin finish, which really was, you know, insanely reflective, massively, you know, overly thick titanium. And it kind of, my love for the idea that I built that thing up in my head, it kind of fell away. And I think it's because, looking back on that, the psychology behind it, I think it's because I realized it was just a little bit more than the knives that I was getting in the $400 to $600 range, right? Now, I'm not saying it wasn't worth the money, right? There's a lot that goes into those knives, and people are going to argue about that no matter what I say. But me personally, the enjoyment that I got out of it was just marginally more than what I was getting out of knives like this. And so, funny enough, it actually didn't hang around very long. I want to say I had that knife for 3 weeks to a month and sold it. And I have not returned to that price range or that upper tier since, right? Now that upper tier can be defined, you know, the $1,000 to $2,000 range is what I'm saying, because those steps get really big, really tall, really quickly, right? I've always been a little intimidated to return to it because it gets so much more confusing as you climb this ladder, right? Going from the $50 to the $100 mark, easy. Going from the $100 to $200 mark, easy, because there are distinctive elements that you get. You know, some of them are more or less functional, right? Some of them are more or less, you know, embellishments, I guess, or just not decorative, but you have more complex machine work. You have more exotic inlay materials, right? You have stuff like more fall shut action, or, you know, smoother action, or better, you know, better tolerances, this or that. Up to about the $600 mark, I can identify all of that stuff pretty easily, and I think that's why this is my comfort zone, right? And everybody always says it's a slippery slope when you get into the world of full custom knives, which is the territory that I'm, you know, describing. So that, coupled with the fact that it's so much harder for me to identify exactly what it is that I'm paying for, right? Despite having handled so many, I've handled a ton of custom knives, right? Stuff that's obviously worth more money than some of the stuff that I enjoy, right? But sometimes I'm like, is this a $1,000 knife or is it a $2,000 knife? is it a $1,500 knife or is it a $3,000 knife, right? It's a lot that plays a role in that. Sometimes there's, you know, labor costs and time that go into it that's just, it's really hard to identify, you know, on a surface level. And I think a lot of people like to assume that custom knife makers make a knife and then they just slap a price tag on it and they charge whatever they want. I'm sure that happens sometimes, but, you know, if you're talking like between 40 and 80 hours of work, of handwork in a knife, right? I'm guessing custom knives fall somewhere into that territory. And then on top of that, you're using materials that are difficult to work with and that are expensive. You know, just the materials themselves are expensive. And then you have to make sure that, you know, everything is precision, right? Lines meet up. If you're doing inlay stuff, there's no seams, right? Or, you know, the tolerances, this or that. Everything has got to be perfect because the people who are going to buy these things and pay all this money for them are going to expect that everything is perfect, right? Or perfect in their eyes. So yeah, they're definitely going to cost more money. It's not going to make sense to everybody, but that's just, it is what it is. But how much, what's appropriate? Oh, it's intimidating. It's so intimidating to get, I can't pretend for a second that I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm buying for $1,500. I know exactly what I'm putting my money into. I mean, like, I can understand it up to a point. But every additional $100 past the $1,000 mark is so much more intimidating. It's exponentially more intimidating, right? So, at the 13-minute mark, I've been rambling on. I have just always kind of stayed away from it. I've been tempted by Shirogorovs. I've been tempted by, oh gosh, what's the Japanese? Rockstead. I've been tempted by the Rockstead Higo 2, but it's like, boy, $1,600. Can I really identify what it is about this knife that's going to make me $1,000 happier than this $625 80/20? And on that topic, you know, is the Rockstead Higo 2 actually something that is my style, or was I just overwhelmed by it in the moment when I handled it? Right? It's a blessing and a curse on this channel when people send me stuff like that, because I handle it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is obviously, you know, something that's amazing and artistic and has all this work in it. Oh, I want this now so much more now that I'm handling it. But is it gonna, or, you know, and sometimes I handle it and I'm like, I'm glad I got to handle this. This is cool, but it's definitely not for me. So now I can put it out of my mind, right? So those are the conflicts that I, you know, that I know it's, people are like, oh, boo-hoo, you know, you have set, your life is so hard. Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like that, but yeah, I have the internal conflicts about purchases, and I want to keep content going on this channel, give you guys interesting things to look at, but also scratch my own itch because I'm a knife guy, so this is a part of my life now, right? But budgeting correctly, saving, making sure that everything is sorted out in your personal life and that you can pay all your bills and save some money and then pay for the knives that you want. That's obviously very important. Something I try to make sure that I do properly. But anyways, I've never been super confident about wanting to spend that much money up until I handled this guy. And I talked about this before. Brian Nadeau's unique detent system, where and I'm not going to do it justice, but it's that lip of steel up there. I believe it's part of the lock bar, the lock bar insert. Can we actually see up in there? You can see that little lip. It acts as a very interesting detent system, and it has its own unique feeling that's very different from the ceramic ball. And I feel like it's the sound that it makes, but it's also the feeling of the break is very different. It's much more crisp and much more, I don't know, deliberate. Am I making it more foggy by using words like this? It's much more of a, I don't know. It feels so much more precise. Ironically, can't pronounce precise in a precision way. But yeah, it just feels more. It's crispy, like everything is just set just right. And then you pull down on the flipper tab, which is also the guard here for the dagger, and bam, does exactly what I want it to do. On top of that, we've got a very large double ground or double-sided dagger, right? That is thicker than I would have expected. The titanium's thicker than I would have expected. This is kind of an overbuilt, in a good way, an overbuilt flipper dagger that is ridiculously smooth. It's not a fall shut smooth. I don't really care about fall shuttiness. It's just, it's so consistent. There's no bumpiness or anything like that. There's no feeling of, I don't know, inconsistency in surfaces or anything in there, right? Symmetry really calls to me. There are a lot of knives that are, like the Dirac Delta and the Deadlock OTF, right? Those are automatic knives. So generally, it's easier to get symmetry and stuff like that because the blade comes out the front. Those have spoken to me, but they don't have those other elements that I look for, which is the robustness, the large, right? Not necessarily because I'm going to use it or because I expect it to be more capable in any given circumstance. I just like that. That's what I'm attracted to, right? Sight and touch, right? And sound, all of those things come into play. I've never experienced anything like this where it wrapped all that stuff together. On top of that, you have basically impeccable. I mean, I can't find any flaws with this, And we have little teeny tiny details, which actually I'm going to try and capture here. Look at this. Look at the blade. There's millwork in the blade. Oh, that's something that really does it for me. I was looking so closely at this blade after looking at a picture of some of the arch nemesi. How do you say that? What's the plural form of arch nemesis? On Instagram, on Brian Nadeau's Instagram. Go follow Brian Nadeau on Instagram. Go follow all the Knife Nuts podcast guys. Holy crap! I could scroll for hours. But I was looking at some of the even more expensive ones, the $3,000-$4,000 ones, and I was looking at this interesting carbon fiber weave that they mill into some of the blades, and I was like, oh my God, I have never seen anything like that. That is wild. And I got to looking at this one, and I was like, oh my goodness, this actually has that in the blade, right? And there's also micro machine work in the handle scales too. You can see there's a little pattern. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. The Raffir Noble, that's the inlay material on this. Not really my thing. It's cool, but it's not this exact version of the knife that I want. But I want the knife. I just want something a little bit different. That also, let me toss this in here. Something else that's making this. It's not just the design and the action and the uniqueness of this, right? The overall profile. It's very beautiful. I love this awesome. I mean, almost medieval dagger looking knife, right? But it's also a folding knife. It's all this combined with the fact that these are basically all but unobtainable right now. If I have to hunt one down on the secondary market, I'm going to want one that's in impeccable shape. I'm not going to want to spend that much money on one that's been used, right? So I'm already at a not saying that all the ones out, most of the ones out there probably haven't been used, but I got to be real careful about that because I'm going to be really particular if I'm going to spend that much money. And then I have to deal with the feeling of spending that much money, and I have to find one that is exactly what I want. I'm not going to spend that much money on something that is not absolutely exactly what I want. And while there were a fair amount of these made, originally I asked Levin from the Knife Nuts podcast, I was like, so what, are there only like 20, 30 of these made? And he said, no, there's definitely more than that, but still not very many, right? I got to find the one I want. That person has to be willing to let it go for a price that we can agree on. Oh, that just makes the itch that much worse, right? And I have to come to terms with the fact that I might never actually obtain exactly what I'm looking for. I might never be brave enough to pull the trigger. But the fact remains is that the itch has never been greater for something in this price range. And it's terrifying because if I dip my toes in, what does that do to my bar, my personal bar? Because the moment of ownership, after you pay for it and they ship it and they send it to you, the moment that it is truly yours, when you have it in hand, that's when everything changes a little bit, right? Either for the better or for the worse. I did a Knife Guy episode about the bar being shattered, right? And I talked about this just really just messing me up mentally. You know, I felt like I was forever content to be limited at about right here. And I realized that if this comes along, it means that there are infinite more things that could come along and make it that much more difficult for me. You know, so it's that, for me, it was more proof to myself that this road is never ending, right? When you think you find an area that you're in, a lot of people do find a comfort zone, and I think they're probably just more resilient to the itch than I am. No, I'm pretty weak to the itch, definitely. So some people do find their comfort zone and they stay there for much, much, much longer. But eventually, right, as probability will factually have it, something will come along that will make you want to spend more money than you're comfortable spending. And it's a crossroads that we all have to deal with in one form or another, right? And so do you resist? Do you give in? And if you give in, what happens to your habit, right? Oh, there's no conclusion. For those of you waiting for a conclusion, I joked about that in the Knife Guy episode too, right? If you sat here hoping for resolve, sorry. It's, you know, if you're watching this, you're likely deep in the hobby, right? And it just continues. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, having the channel and, you know, being able to acquire the stuff that I have acquired and make that work with my budget, the channel has made that substantially easier for me than it used to be. Not even a fraction of this. So, yeah, I'm sometimes in a position that's, you know, it's different than what it used to be, and it's not the exact same type of conflict, I guess, that it used to be for me. But it still can create a problem, right? I don't want to just go forking over thousands and thousands of dollars every month for everything that kind of, you know, strikes my interest just a little bit. I don't want to do that. I've definitely done that with less expensive knives before, just bought things on a whim just to fill a void in that moment. And at the end of it, it was just like, I just blew $200 on something that I didn't really even want, right? And that's, and while not everybody knows what that feels like, there are definitely those of you watching right now who have done that before, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't want that to happen. I've made sure that it doesn't happen with knives that cost, you know, around the $400 to $600 mark, because that would be even worse. The more money you spend, the worse that is. I certainly don't want that to happen with more expensive knives. So this is something that I feel like I have time to consider this, right? Given that it's not like he's got 10 of them and it's like, if you don't grab one now, they're going to be, like, that would be a different story. But the fact that these are not, as far as I understand, not being made right now, and the ones that are out there are the ones that are out there, right? This is a long-term hunt. I have a long time to think about this. And while this one is here with me, it really helps me, you know, kind of decide if this is something that I want to do. But it is a potential, you know, thing in the future. I guess, I don't know, the message of this this episode is there's always going to be more. So I'm going to keep my eyes open for other things that might pique my interest and fill that or scratch that itch that would cost me less money. Because that's, I don't know, in some ways it's a healthier way to deal with that. But, you know, on the other end of it, you know, it may end up being that I'm never going to, you know, hit that next peak or, you know, obtain the happiness that comes with this until I actually acquire this, right? It's the whole Hinderer versus 0562 thing. I thought I could fill the void with the 0562, and then I ended up buying both the 0562 and the XM18 and then like 30 more Hinderers. So, but, you know, mine might be a more isolated circumstance. I don't know. This was really just meant to be an entertaining ramble. Was not meant to be much more than that. Just wanted to give you guys something to, you know, kick back and watch and enjoy, much like the knife guy. And I was feeling it in the moment. This is this arch nemesis has really messed me up. I did not expect that a knife could be that good. Now, you know, I still, you know, personally. And it's because I own this one. Because a lot of you are saying, like, you said that your favorite folding knife of all time was the 80-20. It is, but because I own this, I have a different emotional connection with this. I want this, but I don't own it. So it's still second to this guy. Maybe if I own, you guys know what I mean, right? When you own it, all of a sudden your feelings change. Or you get more attached to it, or you have a stronger connection with it. Which is silly because these are still just inanimate objects. For those of you who watched 4 minutes of the video and left your comment down below, yeah, at the 26-minute mark, I did admit that these are just inanimate objects, and it's kind of silly to have this type of connection with something like this. But, hey, I mean, that's why I'm here doing the YouTube channel, right? This is a healthy vent. This is the only way I can make it work. So, anyways, I hope this made sense. I hope you guys got something out of this. At the very least, I hope it was somewhat entertaining. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.